Uh,
Struggle with team.
so still your voice is very low. Sir, if you please try joining in again. I think there is a problem with Teams.
Now can you hear me?
Sir, we can hear you, but it is very low.
I now no.
No, no,
So
sir.
still it is low.
So what do we do? Should we? I don't really know what's going on here in terms of settings.
Sir, it is better now, sir. It is better now.
I can pretty close to the mic now.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? I mean, is it clear? Or
Now
Yeah,
it
it
is
is
clear,
get.
sir.
Yeah, it is get. Yeah, you can come close to my mic, sir. Then it will be better, very better.
okay, so let me try that. Let me try that. All right. Should I start then?
Yes, yes, sir. Okay. So just 1 minute,
Now
sir.
you're audible, sir.
Okay.
Now, so 1 minute, sir. So now I welcome Shri Naveen Munjal ji, Managing Director of Hero Electrical Vehicles and President SMEV, to the Department of Electrical Engineering, Andhra University, Visakhapatnam, to deliver the talk, the road ahead for electrical vehicles. So we are very thankful to you, sir, on behalf of the department. So I welcome Ms. Nikita to introduce the guest. Nikita.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
To our distinguished guest, Shri Naveen Munjal ji, our head of the department, Professor G.V. Sivakrishna Rao Garu, all revered professors and dear students, a very good morning to everyone. I am Nikita of BTech third year. First of all, I would like to thank our head of the department, Professor G.V. Sivakrishna Rao Garu, for organizing today's talk on the road ahead for electric vehicles by our distinguished guest, Shri Naveen Munjal ji, Managing Director, Hero Electric Vehicles Private Limited and President, SMEV, New Delhi. As we all know, during this pandemic, though there is a prolonged campus closure, our HOD sir has been continuously supporting us through digital platforms, planning lively interactions, engaging us with eminent personalities from various backgrounds whenever possible, and bringing awareness among us regarding opportunities available after graduation. We are very blessed to have such a wonderful HOD sir who acts as our friend, philosopher, and guide, always encouraging us to have bigger dreams and helping us achieve them. We are very thankful to you, sir. Thank you so much for all your strenuous efforts made in arranging these informative sessions.
Thank you.
Moving forward, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce our today's keynote speaker, our distinguished guest, Shri Naveen Munjal ji. Mr. Naveen, after completion of BCom in 1992, has done his MBA in the United States International University, Europe in 1992 to 93 and MBA International Business in Huron University in 1993 to 94. He started his career in a marketing team in Jaguar Land Rover. As an entrepreneur, Mr. Naveen's leadership and vision is widely recognized in shaping the Indian electric two-wheeler industry as well as his contributions to various forums in the electric vehicle sphere, both in India and globally. He has built the Hero Electric brand into a leading manufacturer and a market leader in the electric vehicles two-wheeler market in India. At an international level, Hero Electric launched A2B, a premium brand of electric bicycles, which is widely considered one of the pioneers in the EV industry globally. In 2008, he has instrumental in founding the SMEV, Society of Manufacturers of Electric Vehicles, the only representative body of the Indian electric vehicle industry in India. He chairs SMEV as its president since inception. Consistent efforts of SMEV resulted in the Indian government's push towards making EV adoption a key agenda under various policies, both at a state and a national level. He has also chaired the Confederation of Indian Industry, New Delhi, as its chairman. In the past, he has also been a board member in Entrepreneurs Organization and is currently on the board of Young Presidents Organization. He also serves on the board of Light Electric Vehicle Association, USA, amongst the others. He has been an advocate on climate change and zero emission mobility and speaks at various global forums and conferences like EVS, ID TechX, Bloomberg NEF, Climate Change Summit, etc. Mr. Naveen regularly interacts with students at various institutions like IIMs, IITs, etc., and has taken the role of teaching postgraduate students at Masters Union on the future of mobility as of this year. Mr. Naveen is also a wet street photographer, an advanced open water diver, and adventure sports enthusiast. It is indeed a privilege to have such an eminent personality with us today. So let us welcome our distinguished guest, Shri Naveen Munjal ji, to deliver a talk this morning. We are very happy to have you, sir. We look forward for your valuable suggestions and guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikita. Sir, you can come on the screen.
Thank you so much, Professor Rao, for having me. Thank you, Nikita, for that detailed and very flattering introduction. It's an absolute pleasure for me to be here today. Thank you for having me. So, Professor Rao, as I understand, we have till about 12 o'clock, right?
Yes, no problem, sir. You can continue, no problem.
So,
as you wish, as you wish.
Okay. So, what I'll do is I'll make a presentation to you all, and then I'm open for any questions that they may be that you may have. Now, since generally, when I interact with students, I like to ask them questions to start with. But here I can see that I can't see any videos. I can't see anybody's camera on. So it'll be very difficult for me to certain answers. I don't know how to do that right now. But
you can ask, sir. Anybody can may respond. Yeah.
So before I start, then that's a good idea. Before I start, I wanted actually a show of hands, but that's not going to be possible here. Is how many of you actually have ridden an electric vehicle at all? There are 2-3 questions that I like to just get my hands on. One is how many of you have experienced an electric vehicle? Second is how many of you are actually looking at joining this sector going forward as a career option? And the third is, when do you feel disruption in electric vehicles is going to disrupt the IC engine industry? Is it going to be next 5 years, 3 years, 7 years? So if any of you have any answers to that, please feel free. And then I can start jumping straight into a presentation. Does anybody have any opinion on that? Any of these questions?
Students, respond. At least one by one question, sir. First, you can put a one question, sir.
No worries. So if somebody is ready, well and good. If not, then I can start my presentation. Then they can answer this later.
Yeah, there will be somebody at least. So sir has put 3 questions. Anybody has ridden already the electrical vehicles? And next question is, so who is interested in joining this sector as a career opportunity? And third question is, when will this electrical vehicle, that is this field, will interrupt the IC engine? Yeah, something. Yes, sir. These are 3 questions.
Anybody has any views on this?
Students, respond. Anybody?
Good morning, sir. This is Achut.
Good morning. Good morning.
Sir, still now I didn't have ridden a vehicle, but I have a little passion to drive it because there will be pollution will be a fraction less than this. And I have some getting into the electric vehicles. I have some type of thinking such that I can develop it. I just wanted to take the world into electric vehicles such that mostly pollution will be fraction less than the motor vehicles. And it may take nearly to 15 years, I think, so, because we need to, first of all, we need to mechanics also for those repairs. Up to now, the mechanicals are usually they are habituated to repair those engines with fuel engines, which run with fuels. For a person to buy electric vehicles, they also think about this. For the service, they need to get they need more service centers, but those will take a time.
Thank you, Truth. Very, very valid point. I'm glad you brought this point up because I would like to actually address it. I'm addressing it in my presentation, so I'll take you through that. So very valid points.
Tag it, sir, 1 minute. Tag you can mute your video.
All right, perfect, great. So I'll get straight to it then. Just let me present.
Any other person, any idea?
No worries, Professor Rao. Let's start this.
Yeah, okay. Sir.
Then I can ask them some questions later.
Yeah. Okay,
is this visible, my screen?
Yeah. It is 100%.
Perfect. All right. So Hero Electric has actually been, so like Professor Rao said, and like Nikita gave my introduction, my name is Naveen, and I'm going to take you through what's actually happening in the electric vehicle field, both in India and at a global level. So I'm going to give you a good deep dive into this for a short while. And then please feel free to ask me any questions that you may have, any queries, anything at all, go ahead and ask me after that. So Hero Electric has been actually in this space for about 12, 13 years now. We started in 2007. And in that time, we've actually sold over 350,000 vehicles. 12 million kgs of CO2 greenhouse gases have been saved, 70 million liters of petrol has been saved, and a very huge amount of foreign exchange has been saved on account of electric mobility coming into India. So when we look at electric vehicles, I'll talk first about the industry. When you look at electric vehicles and whenever you read any reports that on electric mobility at a global level, essentially they're talking about cars. They're not talking about other forms of transport. All the reports, majority of them are for cars. But in a country like India, we have different categories. We have cars, we have two-wheelers, three-wheelers, commercial vehicles, and public transport. And all of them have different needs and requirements, and all of them will take off at a different stage in the evolution. So when you look at, for example, price parity with IC engine vehicles, in terms of two-wheelers, it's high. When it comes to three-wheelers, again, it's high. But when it comes to cars, it's very low. And when it comes to commercial vehicles, again, it's very low. When it comes to performance for two-wheelers is medium as compared to an IC engine comparable product. When it comes to three-wheelers, it's high. When it comes to cars, it's again medium. And when it comes to commercial vehicles, I'm assuming that these are not going to be used for long distance and they're used within the city itself. In that case, it's high because the infrastructural requirements are less. Infrastructural needs for two-wheelers, again, are low. Three-wheelers is high because it's a commercial vehicle and being used all the time. For cars, is very high. Now, what I mean by this is when you're using a two-wheeler, the average distance traveled in a country like India, even in larger cities, is no more than about 20 kilometers on an average. But when it comes to a car, you don't want to be limited by range. So you need infrastructure in order to charge your vehicle wherever you're going. So if you're, depending on what part of the country you are in, if you are in NCR, for example, if you're living in Noida and working in Gurgaon, it'll be very difficult for you to commute on an electric two-wheeler. You would rather take public transport, but you would regularly take your car, electric car, to go across. And if you have to go to a third or fourth location, then you start thinking about your charge infrastructure. Where am I going to charge my vehicle? Emissions, all of them are zero since they're all electric. Technological advancements, high for two-wheelers, medium for three-wheelers, very, very high for four-wheelers, and commercial is again medium. And then when we look at the conversion, how quickly is each sector going to convert? Two-wheelers is going to be very fast, is going to be very high. Three-wheelers, we're already seeing the proliferation of three-wheelers in the country. Four-wheelers cars, as per us, is going to be low. And for commercial vehicles, it's going to be very low. So global industry, what's happening? This is an actual picture of New York 5th Avenue in 1900 on the left side and 1913 on the right side. So in the left side, what you can see is a sea of horse carriages there. There's one car there, but you cannot really see it. On the right side, you see only cars there. There is one horse carriage, but that's hidden. This change happened in a span of 13 years, just 13 years, which when you look at it from an automotive perspective is nothing, is not very long at all. So that's how quickly change happened at that point of time. And it's going to be even faster now. So when you look at electric versus IC in industry.
Sir, 1 minute, sir. Sir, excuse me, 1 minute. So screen, can you enlarge, sir? Enlarge the screen.
It is on full screen.
Full screen, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you look at electric versus IC, the life of electric is higher now because once you replace the moving parts, the number of moving parts in an electric vehicle are less than they are in an IC engine. So there is less friction, there is less movement, there's less resistance in the vehicle. And there is less wear and tear because of these less moving parts. So IC engine, for example, for cars, 150 components versus 24 that comes into a drivetrain of a car. Wearing parts, 24 versus 11. So there is a substantial difference. Electric are simpler, but in no means are they simple because they are smarter and they are more powerful because of the less friction that is there. So power is better. Experience riding is much better. There's less vibration in the vehicle. So there's less, like I said, wear and tear. But when it comes to the initial purchase price, the electric vehicle is more expensive than IC at this point of time. The differential is anything from 1.8 times to 2.2 times that of a IC engine vehicle. When we look at on the other side, the TCO, total cost of ownership, electric versus IC could be as low as 1/5 to 1/10 of that of a IC engine vehicle over a period of time. And I'll show you a chart what I mean by this. This is global sales, what's happening. Two-wheeler sector, 30% of the vehicles being sold, not in India. India is only 1% right now. But when you look at it from a global perspective, 30% of two-wheelers that are being sold are now electric. By 2040, electric vehicles will outsell combustion engine vehicles with 77% of the overall fleet. 10% of passenger vehicle market is assumed to be the global passenger market by 2025, 28% by 2030, and 58% by 2040. That's not too far away. In 20 years, we're looking at the entire conversion happening. Price parity will be there by mid-2020s. So we anticipate price parity between IC and electric, at least in the smaller vehicles, to be there by 2025, max 2026, not beyond that. And the cumulative investment in the charging infrastructure is going to be in excess of 500 billion by 2040. That's a substantial investments going in. Why is electric going to be so important? Electric is following a Moore's or the Wright's curve law, which means that the battery prices are dropping and the performances are increasing. You're already seeing that with your mobile phones, with your computers, with any other forms of anything else that you have which has a lithium-ion battery, where year on year the density of the battery is improving, the performance of the battery and the vehicle of the product is improving, and yet the price is declining over the last couple of years. So computers, for example, prices have dropped, performance has improved. The chip prices have dropped, size has become smaller, and the performance has improved. The same thing is happening in lithium-ion batteries as well. Charging infrastructure is very important, but more so, like I said, for cars. What you need for two-wheelers is dense but basic charging infrastructure. You charge it at home, you go to your workplace, if you require, you charge it there and you come back home. You don't necessarily need it in that manner for two-wheelers, but you require it for four-wheelers in a very, very important, it's a very, very crucial for that success. The new entrants, what's happening in electric mobility? Last couple of years, there have been a lot of developments coming through. Then 2017 onwards, there's an increase in sales. increase in products coming out into the market. This is more for cars I'm talking about. So every new company, every company, that automotive company, whether you look at Daimler, Toyota, Renault, Nissan, BMW, GM, anybody and everybody at all, they cannot afford to be left out of the electric vehicle race. These are the companies which have already announced their plans for the next 10 years till 2030. Tesla, of course, we know is already there, but then we've got JLR, we've got Volvo, we've got SEAT, we've got BYD, Honda, you name it. And every single company in the world is now looking at electrification, including when you look at two-wheelers, the Hondas of the world, even the Harley Davidson, which is actually the epitome of IC engine vehicles and the powerful vehicles. They've formed a new company for electric mobility itself. So the conversion has already begun to happen. The conversion is already happening. We are seeing this happening in front of us right now. What's happening in India? That's at a global level. Hero and Electric and Reva, we started actually a long back. So we started way back in 2000, 2001, introduced electric cycles, electrics here in India. Then again in 2004, again did work. Then 2007, we introduced electric scooters, and that's when the market began to take off. In 2009, we formed the Electric Vehicle Association called SMEV. And since then, the market has been expanding, but at a slow rate. In the last couple of years, we are really seeing the traction come into place for various reasons. I'll show you. Battery price is one factor. Beyond that, there are other factors as well. Now, what the interesting thing that's happening is that, like I said about cars, for example, Tesla is going to be coming into India this year. And even though the number of volume of vehicles sold may be less because of the price of the vehicle, but nevertheless, it's going to create a lot of buzz in the market, and that's going to be very good for the industry. Battery prices have dropped 85% in the last 10 years. I was talking about the Wright's law. There's also the Moore's law. So battery prices, which were about $1,200 in 2010, are now at about $160 per kilowatt hour. The estimation is this is going to come down to 100 by 2024, and then down to about 60 by 2028 or 2029. We've taken it to settle down at 110, that if it does make sense, even at $110, and it certainly makes sense, even at that kind of price point. Numerous pushes. There is central policies, which is there from a governmental policies. So when we started off, there was earlier policy under the NEMMP policy, which was announced in 2012, which came into effect as FAME 1 in 2015, and then FAME 2 in 2019. While these policies, so FAME 1 had 890 crore allocation, and FAME 2 actually has 10,000 crore allocation, with 10 lakh vehicles to be on the road in 3 years. 2 years of that policy are already over, 1 year is still to go. We expect that to be extended beyond 2022, as that's the end date for that. But besides the central policies, there are also numerous states coming out with their own policies. Some of them are manufacturing linked, like Tamil Nadu, Punjab, Karnataka, etc. But some of them are also market creation linked, like Delhi for that matter, where Delhi gives it a push to say that conversion of IC to electric for both the consumer applications and B2B. Consumer, by 2024, they want 40% of the vehicles to be electric. 2023, they want 50% of the delivery vehicles to be electric, and 100% by 2025. So there's a huge amount of change which is happening in the next couple of years. So when we looked at our numbers and why we believe that two-wheelers is going to lead the charge. So when we look at India as a market, 80% of the vehicles on the road are actually two-wheelers. So when we took our assumptions that how is the market going to shape up by 2025, how is it going to shape up by 2030? In 2025, we looked at that if the market conversion is only 20%, less than 20% in 2025, but 20% in 2026, which is 5 years from now. Does the business still make sense? How big will the business be? So 2026, even at 20%, which is more conservative than either McKinsey or Niti Aayog or anybody else talking about it, the numbers are going to be substantial. In 2030, when Niti Aayog was talking about 80%, we are only looking at 50 to 60% conversion. That even at 50 to 60% conversion, how is the market going to shape up? And the market looks very, very interesting. So this is what a baseline scenario for 2026 looks like. 20% penetration, 4 million unit volume. up from 150,000 units at this point of time. 250 billion rupee market, and out of that, 30% of the market will actually be B2B. On the right side, you see the pie, which is low speed, city speed, and high speed categories. I'll show you what that means. So on the left side, we've got a triangle, a pyramid, which is the current IC engine industry in India. That's about 20 million unit market. So entry level is still the mainstay of the market that forms the base of the pyramid at about 30 to 70,000 price point, and that's 65% of the market. Then the commuter segment, that is motorcycles and scooters of about 125 to 100 cc or 110 cc, that is about 70,000 to 90,000 price point, and that's about 20% of the market. Beyond 90,000 rupees is considered premium, and that's about 15% of the market. And on the center pyramid is what the market right now is for electric vehicles. So at the lower end, we've got at the base of the pyramid, 70% of the market is actually low speed vehicles or comfort speed vehicles. Middle is the city speed vehicles as we define them. From a governmental standpoint, there are only two definitions: low speed, high speed. Low speed requires no license, registration, road tax. High speed requires all of that. We've broken it up into three categories: low speed, city speed, and high speed. And a city speed vehicle for us, which is going to be the center of the market, the belly of the market, is a very important segment that we believe is going to be the mainstay for the commuter segment. A vehicle which gives you a 45 kilometer speed, 80 odd kilometer range, and at a price point which is comparable that of a IC engine entry level vehicle. So we've got scooters in all of these categories. We've got them in the comfort speed, we've got in the city speed, and we have in the high speed category. And then we've got working on the motorcycle, which will come out soon. This is how the TCO of the vehicles look like. TCO is your total cost of ownership. So on the left side, the two bars are actually for our two-wheelers, which is.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Actually, the figures are not visible, sir. Hemant, కనిపిస్తున్నాయా సరిగ్గా? Hemant.
Are the figures not visible?
కనిపిస్తున్నాయా?
Not visible.
కరెక్ట్ చెప్తే కదా నేను చెప్తాను.
Not visible?
Sorry, sir. Sir, figures are visible. It is visible, sir.
Visible? Yeah.
Are they visible to everybody or? Okay.
Anybody? Ani Sharma. Aditya, చెప్పు.
సార్ నాకు కనిపిస్తున్నాయి సార్, బాగానే క్లియర్ గానే
కనిపిస్తున్నాయా? సరే సరే, ఓకే 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 సార్, ఓకే సార్.
So what I'll do then is, in that case, I'll just take you through the numbers, since if the numbers are not visible clearly to everybody. So on the left side, so what we've done, a comparison, we wanted to compare our vehicles versus the electric high-speed vehicles versus IC engine. So we've taken two of our vehicles, a comfort speed and a city speed vehicle. Then we've taken two of competition high-speed vehicles, and we've taken three IC engine vehicles, out of which one is a scooter at 110 cc, a scooter at 125 cc, and a motorcycle entry level at 100 cc. And we wanted to make a comparison of over 6 years. If you're using your vehicle for 50 kilometers a day, which is very heavy usage, what happens to the economics of that usage? So we've got our vehicles in 6 years taking price, the initial purchase price, charging infrastructure, maintenance cost, and a battery replacement which has been taken into account. Over 6 years, our vehicle will cost you about 1,10,000 rupees, just short of that. For a low speed, a city speed will cost you about 1,15,000. A high speed electric two-wheeler will cost you 2,40,000, and a high speed or a motorcycle electric will cost you about 2,30,000 rupees. These are after subsidy. Then IC engine vehicles will cost you between 2,35,000 to 2,70,000, depending on which vehicle you're looking at. So from that perspective, electric city speed is exactly at half of either a high-speed electric vehicle or a IC engine, even entry level, over a period of time, considering the initial purchase price also. So is that clear? Can I move on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. This is your daily running cost for electric mobility, for electric vehicles. So a low-speed vehicle will cost you about 12 rupees a day. So now let me explain this chart to you. So if you're using your vehicle for 6 years at 30 kilometers a day, and if you're commuting to work, how much is it going to cost you? So for each charge, which is about 1.5 units for a city speed vehicle, which costs you about 12 rupees, you're able to get about 80 kilometer range. Whereas for the same range for an IC engine vehicle, even if it's entry level, you will be looking at 60 kilometers from a liter of fuel or so, which is about 90 rupees. So the comparison is 12 rupees versus 90 rupees on a day-to-day basis. So even if you look at it over 3 years or 6 years, your vehicle actually becomes free to you even in 3 years. Now, what that means is if you bought your electric vehicle for, let's say, 65,000 rupees or 63,000 rupees, as is our city speed vehicle, comparing that to a 75,000 rupee entry level motorcycle or a scooter. So there's a difference there, 65 versus 75. But if you're running them on a day-to-day basis, electric will cost you 12 rupees per day, IC will cost you 90 rupees per day. So over a period of 3 years, 1,000 days, 12,000 versus 90,000, 78,000 rupees is straight off your saving. Your electric vehicle becomes free for you. That's what this chart is trying to explain to you. AQI levels, pollution levels, very important factor. In India, 14 of the 20 most polluted cities or 12 of the 15 most polluted cities are actually in India, and 5 of them are in the NCR region. So no matter which way you look at it, we have to bring these AQI levels down. And impact on the lungs because of pollution, and then on top of that, COVID, is not a great idea. Hero Electric, like I said, we've been in this market now for since 2000, 2001, introduced our scooters at that point, of cycles at that point, and since 2007, we've been running it as a completely different entity from our other group companies. And this entity has its own dealership network, our own supply chain. I'll just show you the chart later. And we've been growing this market. So we've been growing substantially over the last number of years, year on year. We are the market leader in the country with over 40%, 42% market share in the last 1 year. It's the strongest automotive brand in the country. So Hero is the strongest, you all know that. All of you would have ridden one of our products, whether it's a cycle or a scooter or a motorcycle at some point of time in your lives. We've got a pan-India dealer network, which I'll just show you. This is our product portfolio, 6 platforms, 13 models on top of it, each one catering to a different segment. So we've got vehicles in the comfort speed category, and we've got vehicles in the high speed category or city speed category, ranging from 45,000 rupees upwards to about 1,05,000 for a vehicle which will take you 210 kilometers for the B2B segment. In the B2B, we've got dedicated vehicles which are targeted at the B2B segment. Now, the interesting factor across all of this is that we've got portable batteries in all of these vehicles, and it's a uniform battery. So that battery, you can decide you want a vehicle which takes you 60 or 70 kilometers, or it takes you 200 kilometers, depending on your usability. And that battery is uniform across. So if you've got 2 different of our vehicles, you can take out the battery from one and plug it into another and still be able to operate without a problem. Now, what happens with that is for a customer, it becomes very easy because if he's got different vehicles, and 40% of our sales are repeat sales. For a dealership, it becomes very easy to maintain that inventory. And for us as a company, it becomes easy to maintain that inventory. So like I said, we've got a very large dealer network already in place. We've got 450 dealers, and we've already got 250 sub-dealers. We're expanding this substantially. Our manufacturing is in Punjab right now, and we've got a distribution warehouse in Hosur and in Patna. Now, somebody was asking, initially the question was about the service network. Now, we are totally in sync with you on that. So what we've been doing actually in the last couple of years is we understand that even though we have 700 dealers across dealers and sub-dealers across the country, that's not enough because the country is a very wide space and you could have a breakdown somewhere. So what we've been doing is creating a concept called PGO, Preferred Garage Owners. We've already trained up 6,000 of these preferred garage owners, which are your roadside mechanics, on how to fix electric vehicles. So they should not turn around and say that we don't know how to fix it because it's a different vehicle for us, but we want them to be able to fix that vehicle for you for minor problems. And they are linked to a dealership. So in case they don't have the spares, they can always get it from the dealership that they're linked to. Besides that, so this is a very, very important concept for us. We are going to be giving them certificates, etc. And the idea is to take it up to about 20,000 in the next couple of years. These dealers or these PGOs which are being trained are being trained not just for our vehicles, but they can fix other electric vehicles as well. The whole idea is that we increase the whole ecosystem for electric mobility in India. The other thing that we're doing is creating a charging infrastructure. Even though our batteries are portable, but nevertheless, we are creating a charging infrastructure which is dense but basic charging infrastructure. We've already installed about 1,600 charging stations across the country. The idea is again to take it up to about 20,000 in the next couple of years. These are charging stations around a dealership where you would generally go. So they would be there in a mall, in a shopping area where you could go and find a Hero Electric charging station. So even on our website, for example, when you have to locate us, our network, you could locate by the dealer, sub-dealer, by charging station, or by PGO. So if you have a breakdown, you can look up where's my closest PGO and go to that guy to get it fixed. That's the interesting this thing. Our dealers have been with us for a long time, and any dealer who's been with us for over 3 years is already making substantial returns on his investment, as high as 44%, which is a very, very healthy return on capital employed. This is just some of our certifications and some things that we do. So Super Stick Run is a marathon that we have, which we sponsor. Very important is the Code Green concept, what we have. Now, Code Green is basically to promote the concept of green mobility, and not just green mobility, but green air as well. So we partner with India Today, and we came out with the first campaign of Let India Breathe campaign, which took place last year and the year before, where we were talking about solutions for the air problems that we have, not just talking about the problems that we have, but what are the solutions, whether it is the crop burning that happens, or it's a city dust, or it's a vehicular pollution. How do we address those? What are the easy ways to address those? Just some of our exhibitions, etc. Just some marketing stuff. So I'm going to start at winding down here. So very importantly, there are very strong tailwinds. Government policy is one. Traction in the ecosystem, which means that companies who are willing to supply you the components or willing to invest into this category is substantial. The mindset of the customer is changing. Clean mobility is, we all know, it's a need of the hour. And the battery reducing prices. So batteries are reducing, they are going to continue reducing, as I've already spoken about earlier. While there is a substantial push from behind, there are also headwinds in place. And headwinds are basically that the issues which are creating problems or creating, not enabling this market to really explode in the manner that we would have liked it to. One of them is lack of awareness. Even though we've been talking about it for a long time, we market very heavily, but nevertheless, it's still not enough. So more competition coming in is going to grow the pie, is going to create more noise in the market, which is going to create awareness, and then the market is going to expand. Financing is still not there in a very prevalent manner. Price acceptance in a lot of customers is still a factor. Policies, while they are there, are not completely favorable. I was talking to you about the policies, the central policy and the state policies. They're there, but they're not really working in the manner that they were supposed to have worked. So there is some course correction which is required here. So what is driving this change? This technology, the policies, the economics of electric mobility, and the companies. Serious companies are looking at this in a very, very responsible and a serious manner. So every tree planted reduces close to 100 kgs of CO2, just to give you some statistic. Whereas if you use one electric vehicle for 30 kilometers every day for 6 years, that's 3,000 kgs of carbon emissions. That's equivalent to planting 30 trees in terms of for the environment. That's how good electric mobility is for you. Some of our certifications, we are a UN CDM certified project. We are a SA 8000, which means socially compliant. And we are a green building. So our office in Gurgaon is actually a green building. I've already spoken about this. Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure. I would be more than happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. My name is Andhra.
One by one, gents. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, students.
Thank you. Thank you. So if you could just state your name and your question, please.
Yeah.
Sir, my name is.
Good morning, sir. My name is Anirudh.
Yo, one by one. Anil, who is that? Who is that?
Sir, Anirudh, sir, of second year.
Anirudh. Okay, Anirudh. Right. Anirudh.
Sir, I have a question for you, sir.
Yes. Yes, Anirudh.
Yes, sir. Sir, I never
Sir, I've never ridden an electric bike, but I'm guessing it will be very fun to ride, sir. But I think it has three major problems, sir. The charging infrastructure, the range of the vehicle, and the haptic feedback, sir. I mean, most of the people would welcome the idea of silent vehicles because electric vehicles don't make much noise, sir. But I think some of the younger generation might feel it's important to have some haptic feedback, sir. I mean, the sound. But it's not such a big problem, sir. But the main problem is the charging infrastructure and the range of the vehicles, sir. I mean, my question is, why can't we switch to aluminum air batteries, sir, instead of lithium? I mean, India is rich in aluminum resources. So if we could switch to aluminum air batteries, it would have like 8 times higher energy densities. So the range would be drastically improved, sir. So that's my question, sir. Even the charging infrastructure would be highly simplified, sir, because all we would need is to replace the electrodes, sir, to aluminum. That's my question.
Thank you, Anirudh. Very, very valid questions. Okay, let me address all of these. So I did tell you about the charging infrastructure that, charging is still a problem for consumers. So there is range anxiety which happens because of the charging infrastructure, lack of charging infrastructure. So what we've done as a company, like I said, is that we made our batteries portable. So no matter where you go, whether you're going to your university or whether you're going home, if you're living in a block of apartments or you're going to your workplace, if you don't have charging infrastructure there, you can take your battery up to wherever you're going, plug it in the way that you plug your mobile phone, charge it, plug it back into the vehicle, and off you go. That is one part of it. The second is that in terms of if you don't, you as a customer, we allow you to, or we ask you to decide whether you're a heavy user or a low user. So if you're a heavy user, for example, in a B2B, in some of our customers, we've given them vehicles which go 210 kilometer range, which is more than enough for a day-to-day use. And then we made the batteries portable. So if you're a B2B application, or even if it's your B2B, B2C, and you feel that you're going to be using the vehicle a lot, you can buy two batteries, keep one in your vehicle and keep one at home. Come back, take out the one from your vehicle, plug in the one that's at home, and off you go again. The other factor is that the chargers that we have for this are the simple 5 amp chargers. So it's the way that you charge your computer or your mobile phone. So should you feel that you're going to be out of a charge, you can plug in to any wall outlet which is available. There are over 20 million of them available across the country. You can plug in anywhere to charge your vehicle. So this is a bit of a, and this is there in the consumers as well. What happens if, and that is why we are creating the charging infrastructure for them as well, which is not getting used. So just to give you a statistic, in the cities wherever we have installed our charging infrastructure, there around the dealership sales have gone up by 3 times in that same area from the previous time. But how many people are actually using the charging infrastructure is nothing, nil. So for us, it's a marketing expenditure. It's not a profit revenue. It's not a revenue stream. So wherever we install charging infrastructure, it is a marketing expense where we know clearly that people are not going to use it because it's just for that range anxiety. That's one part. The second is range I've already covered, and charging infrastructure I've already covered. Now, in terms of haptics feedback, valid point. In fact, at one point we were working on technologies where you could actually have artificial sound in the vehicle. So you could customize the sound that you wanted in a vehicle. Eventually, we didn't launch it because the feedback that we got from people who were using these vehicles was that we love the silence of these vehicles. We don't want the sound because, we are subject to so much of noise pollution on a day-to-day basis in our cities and urban centers. When we had the lockdown last year, everything had gone quiet. The animals had come out. It was become so quiet for everybody. And now we find, again, we are back to the buzz of the cities. And that's for a lot of people, for majority of the people who use these vehicles are so excited about it because it's so silent. So the point well taken. And the last one is about the batteries. Why not aluminum air and why is it lithium? It's to do with, there are numerous factors why a technology is adopted, why a technology is used the way that it is. And at this point of time, lithium is the most prevalent in terms of the combination of price performance parity, plus also the chemistry that we are using in terms of the fire and other hazards, etc., that you may have, and the charging and the replacement of these batteries, etc. But that said, this technology is going to evolve. This technology is going to change over the next couple of years, and we are going to see more of solid state batteries coming into play in the next couple of years. Now, beyond that is what is going to happen, we don't know yet. But right now, this is the best technology that we have in terms of the price, performance parity, the durability of the battery, and the portability of the battery. I hope that answers your questions, Anirudh.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Anirudh.
Next.
Sir, good morning. I'm Gayatri, first year BTech.
So once again, you can speak. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Gayatri, yeah.
Sir, my name is Gayatri, first year BTech, sir.
Thank you, Gayatri.
Sir, my question is, sir, as of now, India is not only India on a global perspective, a lot of countries are reliant on coal as their base form for the base electricity, no, sir. Sir, if we ditch out internal combustion engines and could rely on electrical vehicles also, sir, at last we'll be drawing up electricity from the grid, which is mainly sourced from coal, which is a bad cousin of petroleum, even more bad. So, sir, how is it going to help in the reduce pollution in that manner, sir?
Okay. Thank you, Gayatri. That's a very, very valid question. Let me try and address it. So, Gayatri, when you look at the problem that we have, pollution problem that we have, that is an urban problem. It's not a rural problem. Across India, when you look at major cities, the pollution on account of vehicles is in excess of 45% of the pollution that exists in the air, the PM 2.5. The minute you go out of the cities into rural areas, that drops dramatically down to 1% or even less than 1%. Again, to give you an example of what happened last year, when the vehicles shut down, and even now when we've got a lockdown in place in some cities and some parts of the country, the pollution levels drop dramatically in the cities. So the problem that we have right now is a city problem. It's not a rural problem. That's one. It is always easier to control pollution at a central source than it is at an individual vehicle source. So no matter what you do with IC engine vehicles, there will always be some emissions because of tailpipe emissions, and which contribute to the city problems that we have. Whereas when you have these emissions in a power plant, it's much easier. Now power plants cannot be set up without having proper emission norms and having proper scrubbing of the air that comes out of there. So it's not that they will just continue to throw out a brown, black smoke. That air is cleaned. The other factor is that when we look at power plants in India, there is a conversion happening from the coal powered into renewable energy. Renewable is only about 20% right now, but the idea is, because as per Paris Accord as well, we will be increasing this renewable energy. Had it been purely renewable energy, we would have had a bigger problem. Now let me explain to you why. If it's renewable, generally that is in a country like India, it would be solar, which means that you're generating and you're capturing that energy during the day, whereas you're charging these vehicles at night. So you would actually have to store that energy to be able to discharge it or charge it these vehicles at night. The second factor is that we have the power grid as we have it right now. That is, there's a change happening. Power grid application, power grid, the capacities and loads are calculated as per the peak loads, which is during the day. That's not at night. So peak load requirements are for the day when all your offices and buildings and commercial establishments and factories, etc. are working. At night, they all shut down, thereby dropping the power load on the grid. But the grid still continues to produce power. The thermal power stations cannot be shut down. So they continue to produce power, which is not getting used. So actually, electric plays a very important role in balancing out the grid. So that is the next factor. So there is no additional load on the grid. And the power that is generated from the central power plants, it's much easier to control than it is at a vehicle level. So we cannot wait for our power to convert to completely to renewable before getting into this. By then our cities will be completely bogged down in smoke and smog. We have to start converting right now in our cities and control it at the rural level. Is that clear, Gayatri? Are you?
Yes, sir. Sir, and one more thing, sir. You mentioned about infrastructure accessibility, no, sir. Sir, but reliability, if Hero Motors uses one kind of adapter for charging and some other motor, maybe Honda or some other company uses another kind of adapter, won't it will not be the same way as usual petrol pumps, no sir. Their fuel is same for every vehicle, but here electric vehicle, each one, if it's of different voltage and frequency voltage, it varies for each vehicle, and the adapters also should be adjusted, no sir. Sir, is there, have you all found out any solution for this?
Gayatri, the adapters for this, for the vehicles, at least for two-wheelers, and that is an important factor. And that is why I was saying, I was showing a chart. I didn't talk about so the higher speed you go, the more specialized power adapters you need. Whereas when you stay in the city speed category, you can do with the standard adapters that you have on your computer. So whether you have a Dell computer or a HP or a Mac or a IBM or Lenovo, whatever be the case, the charger is unique to all of them. So the adapter is unique to all of them, but the plug point in front is standardized. It's just the one that you've got Professor Rao at the back. You can see two of them. So on the left side, you can see a 15 amp, and on the top, you can see a 5 amp. It's the same way. What you have in front, which you connect to the wall outlet, is the one that you have just behind Professor Rao right now, which is a 5 amp 3-pin plug. And that 3-pin plug can be plugged into any wall outlet anywhere in the country. There is no special requirement for that. That is a problem more with the larger vehicles, cars, commercial vehicles, etc., where you have to have the connectors of a certain kind. That is why we've chosen to stay in this category, because that infrastructure already exists. We don't have to create a special infrastructure for charging the two-wheelers. Clear?
Sir, yes, sir. Sir, another small thing. Sir, I use an Android smartphone, sir.
Yes.
And sir, if you have ever used an Android smartphone, there's a feature in it called battery saver, which turns off unwanted apps and other. It does most so that to minimize battery usage. But even then, my phone charge drops out. It's a new phone, sir. I just bought it 2 years back, sir. So it the battery always drops out. It drains, my battery drains very fast, sir. So I thought it was some problem with the battery, and I made it replace at the showroom, Nokia showroom, sir. Even then, the problem hasn't been solved. If electric vehicles face similar problem, won't it be difficult, sir?
See, the batteries that you use for electric vehicles versus what you're using in the phones or versus what you're using in the cars are kind of similar. The cells at the back end are similar. Its chemistries are kind of similar. In electric vehicles, the chemistry is slightly better because here the usage is very different. The strain on the load that is put on the vehicle is very, very different from what it is on other forms. I don't know what chemistry that battery is. I don't know whether it's the older chemistry. I don't know what kind of this thing. I don't know what the issue is. But in lithium, what happens is that we give a 3-year warranty on the battery. If you use it properly, if you charge it properly, that battery will easily last you 5-6 years without a problem at all. But it's a 3-year. We give a 3-year warranty on the battery and 5-year on the vehicle. If in those 3 years, if you find your charge dropping, we replace the batteries for you. So it's like a computer, it's like a phone. You could have one somewhere, you could have an issue, but generally it doesn't happen. Generally, there's no real issue. We haven't had battery recalls happening or anything of that sort happening so far. And we've been selling lithium-ion batteries now for the past 3-4 years. And that's why I said, it's very important to get the right chemistry of the battery. And we haven't had any issues with our batteries so far. But theoretically, could there be a problem? Sure. It's an electronic product. There could be problems, yeah.
Sir,
Next,
you mentioned before that. Yes, sir.
So many are waiting. Yeah, next persons are waiting.
Okay. Last question, sir. Final over.
Yeah.
Sir, as you mentioned before, internal combustion vehicles or IC vehicles have more parts in their engines, no, so they have more chances of getting repaired. So whereas electric vehicles, they just have a battery and a motor. But if anything goes wrong, the replacement cost may be higher, sir. So how is it? No. So how could we actually manage that if anybody wants to shift?
So let's consider this. Okay, so when you're, like I said, on the vehicle, you've got a 3-year warranty on the electronics, on the battery, and 5-year on the vehicle. So within that time, if anything goes bad, that part is replaced free of cost. Now, let's look at what is going to go wrong. So mechanicals, put them aside because those are similar to an IC engine. Mechanicals don't really go bad. Your wire harnesses, etc., don't go bad. Your shockers don't go bad. Your tires, it's wear and tear, and your brakes are wear and tear. So that leaves your drivetrain, which means your battery, motor, controller, BMS. Those are the parts, right? In an electric vehicle, if your motor goes bad, which doesn't happen, our motor failure rate is sub 0.01% in the last 13 odd years that we've been there. Motor doesn't go bad, but if it does go bad, and if it's within warranty, you take out the motor, you plug in a new one, and off you go. There is no overhauling, there's no opening of the engine, all of that stuff, nothing of that sort. The second is if your battery goes bad. Now, if it's within a warranty period, you go into a dealership, the dealership will check, he's got he's got the meter to dynamometer to check it. He checks it. If it's bad, he takes out the battery, he plugs in a new one, and off you go. If it's post a warranty period, if it's 5 years or 6 years hence, you go into a dealership again, your battery, and you're finding that it's not good. You know what happens with the lithium ion? It's the same as what happens with a computer or a phone, etc. It over a period of time, after a number of years, you begin to see that it doesn't last me that long, and that is the nature of the lithium ion battery. In lead acid, what used to happen is the charge used to be there and it used to be dropped very sharply. In a lithium, it's a much gradual curve. And this is technology is only going to keep on evolving and improving. So in the next 5 years, the batteries that you see, we may be in the next 3 years, we may be giving a 5 or a 7 year warranty on the batteries because the chemistries, it's a constant work in progress. So what would happen is post your period of warranty, etc. If you go into a dealership and you've had a battery which is not performing as per what you would like it to, you can buy a new battery, and for the old battery also you will get salvage value. It's not that you're just buying a new one and this one is to be thrown. You will get money back for this because this battery will get refurbished and go into stationary applications, UPS, inverters, and all of these other applications. So there is value to be derived out of that also. So generally in electric, the moving parts are less, the number of parts that get spoiled are less. We give you, for example, when we sell a vehicle, we give you 3 warranties, 3 service coupons, free service coupons where you take your vehicle into the dealership. It's not the same as checking a IC engine vehicle. So here what happens is he goes in and we've got all these meters and testers. They put that onto the vehicle and within 10 minutes, you get a report on how all parameters are functioning. And within 10 minutes, actually the guy's out. In a lot of cases, we find that the person says that I've only been here for 10 minutes. You haven't done anything to my vehicle. So we make him wait for half an hour in some cases in a dealership, just for him to feel that, something is being done to his vehicle. Plus, what happens is when it comes to IoT and technology and smart connectivity of the vehicles, in a lot of vehicles, we are getting data back and how the vehicle is performing. So even before you go into a dealership or before you go into an area where you go in with the problem, we already know what the problem is. And we already begin to take corrective action there because these vehicles, in a large cases, especially more so in B2B, not so much in B2C right now, are smart connected vehicles. So the problems that exist for this are much less than what they do for IC engine vehicles. It's nothing close to what it is there. Overhauling, etc. is not required. The engine does not begin to deteriorate. So if, for example, when you buy a new vehicle IC engine, and if that gives you 70 kilometers to a liter to start with, in 3 years, it will not be giving you that kind of range. It'll be giving you 40 or 45 kilometers. But that's something that we've all gotten used to. In electric, it will not be that way. You will still be getting at least about 55 to 60 as against 70 kilometers on day one. And even then there is salvageable value. So I hope, Gayatri, that answers your questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
If you have any further, please reach out to Professor Rao, who can send me a mail on it, and I would be more than happy to answer them. I think you still have a number of other questions.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Sir. Hello, sir. This is Hemant Kumar, research scholar. Sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, is there any research is going on the fuel cells electrical vehicles in Hero Electric, sir?
No, we are not doing any work on fuel cell, Hemant, at this point of time. See, what we're doing is there's a lot of fuel cell is still very far away. Fuel cell, we anticipate, and this is not just our anticipation, this is not just our expectation, this is not our projection. Even at a global level, there are projections that fuel cell will only come into vehicles post 2030, 3035. And that's going to be in larger vehicles, commercial vehicles, etc. For smaller vehicles, two-wheelers, etc., it's probably beyond 2040 or 45. So right now we are not really researching so much on it, no.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, another question, sir. Is there any chance to carry any power banks for any electrical vehicle, sir? That means if the charging station is not near to the electrical vehicle, if suddenly the vehicle is stopped somewhere, and is there any chance to carry the portable type of power banks for the electrical vehicles, sir? Is there any that type of conversion is going on, sir?
No, see what would happen, that is more for electric cycles that you can do. For an electric scooter, it's very difficult because the power bank that you're carrying on a day-to-day basis would be unreasonable for you to expect to carry a 2 or 3 kg power bank just to give you that number of kilometers. See, let's look at various scenarios. You are a user who feels that at times you go long distances. You can buy a spare battery, keep that battery in your vehicle. So under your seat, there is space for a spare battery also, or a helmet or whatever be the case. So you could keep another battery in the vehicle. Should you find that you're running out of charge of one, you switch and go to the next battery, and that battery will give you the same range as what the previous one was, which would be anything about 70, 80 kilometers or more than that. So that is one way for somebody to actually make sure that they never run out of charge. The second is that you can plug your vehicle, like I said, into any wall outlet, any outlet at all, any UPS, anything at all. I was doing an interview with somebody in India Gate, and they said, where do you charge your vehicle? So you have these guys who take your picture and then go and print it out for you. They have a UPS there. You can charge it from that, literally from that UPS also. So there are enough and beyond charging stations, enough where you could plug in your vehicle just to charge for a nominal fee if that guy even asks you for that. So it's difficult to carry a battery bank with you for a vehicle because that bank would be unreasonable over a period of time. Beyond a certain, you're not going to be able to carry it, but you can carry a spare battery in your vehicle for sure.
Sir, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, another question, sir. What type of thermal standards we are following for electrical vehicles, sir? Two-wheelers side. That means the battery and conversion devices. What type of thermal standards, sir?
See, there are no government standards on the conversion devices as such. What the government does, what ARAI does.
Pardon, he is asking about thermal standards, thermal
standards. Okay,
thermal standards.
Okay, so these batteries, when it comes to, sorry, I misunderstood the question. So when it comes to two-wheelers, the batteries are actually air-cooled rather than when it comes to cars and larger vehicles, they are liquid-cooled. So what happens with those vehicles is that you can have a liquid coolant in the batteries, in the compartments in the batteries, but you don't have that level of space in the two-wheelers. So two-wheelers are generally air-cooled. So you have these vents in front, which take in the air when you're driving the vehicle, and they cool the battery. So thermal management is done by the air cooling that happens. And then you have a very strong BMS, which is there on the vehicle, on the battery, which does not allow it to overheat beyond a certain level. So it actually cuts off. So even though we may give you a 1.5 kilowatt hour battery, we may cut off at 1.2 kilowatt hours because we want to keep that 0.3 for thermal management.
Yes, sir. Sir, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Hemant.
Next.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning.
Sir, I'm Vidyan from second year, sir. Sir, I have a doubt regarding batteries, sir. Do you manufacture them or buy them, sir?
Vidyan, we buy the batteries. We don't manufacture the batteries. We partner with a number of companies who manufacture the batteries for us.
Sir, so I think that's the reason why your bikes are more expensive, sir.
You are coming to conclusion.
Sir, regarding the, I mean, if you take Hero Electric Optima, the HX dual battery version price around 74,000 rupees, sir. I think if you make the batteries yourself, you can cut the price by half, sir. As Elon Musk, before Model S, he used to buy Panasonic batteries, sir. After that, he used to, I mean, he began manufacturing his own batteries, sir.
Vidyan, it's not that simple. It's not that simple to cut down the batteries. First and foremost, the battery, when it comes to a vehicle like the HS Optima, is about 30 to 40% of the total value of the vehicle. And then even if you're able to cut down, you would be able to cut down only a part of that battery assembly cost. So let's look at a battery. How is the battery made? Okay, let's look at the vehicle and the battery. So in a vehicle, you've got the mechanicals, the black parts, which means the chassis of the vehicle. You've got the plastics, And then you've got parts like your wheels and tires and shockers and lights and wire harnesses and your motor and everything. And battery is one element in that whole drivetrain. Now, within the battery, there is a BMS, there's a charger, controller, and a battery. Now,
Yes,
within the
can I
battery,
take the price of them too, sir?
no, I know, but let me explain this to you.
Okay, sir.
Within the battery, what is happening in India at this point is there's no battery manufacturing happening, there's battery assembly. So the cells come from either Taiwan or China or Korea or Japan. They get assembled into a battery pack here, and that battery pack is then supplied to us. Now, the cost of doing that conversion or that assembly is not very high. So actually your USP is in the battery manufacturing, which a company like us, with the scale that we have, it is not viable for us to manufacture the batteries ourselves. So that is why we partner with companies. If we assemble the batteries ourselves, is there a saving that we can do? Possibly there may be 2 or 3% of the battery conversion cost. But when you look at the vehicle, the entire vehicle, that only amounts to about 2-3% in the at best in the whole vehicle cost. So that is why we choose right now to let somebody else do it, and we focus on creation of the industry, creation of the market, creating the dealer network, the charging infrastructure, the PGOs, and making sure our vehicles get out in time, rather than investing heavily into something where we can partner with companies to enable that to do that for us. See, what's going to happen in electric, as against IC, is going to be a very collaborative model. So electric, a lot of companies, you yourself said, I mean, in the case of Tesla, for example, Tesla has partnered with Panasonic. Only when they become the most valuable company in the automotive space, have they actually started manufacturing or looking at manufacturing the batteries themselves. You look at the other most valuable company in the world, Apple. Apple used to always partner with Intel for their chips. It's only now in the last couple of years where they've started to manufacture the chips themselves. So it is basically management of your cash flows, management of your working capital, management of making sure that what are you focusing on? Because you can't be doing so many things at the same time, manufacturing the batteries, developing the new batteries and technologies, selling the vehicles, creating the charging infrastructure, and creating the ecosystem around it. It becomes too expensive for a company. So we focus on what battles we want to fight at this point of time, and some others we partner with.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next.
Good morning, sir. This
Hi,
is
good
Madhuri
morning.
from second year of BTech. As per my knowledge, apart from charging and range of a vehicle, there is one more cons of electric vehicle, that is load capacity.
So
I didn't get the question.
Your voice.
Yes, sir. Am I clear now, sir?
Yeah, you are. Yeah. Please go on.
Yeah. As per my knowledge, apart from charging and range of an electric bike,
No, it is not clear. Madhuri, just so apart from, after that you ask, apart from the
range of the vehicle, I didn't quite get that again, sorry.
After that, what is your main question, basic question, just main point? What is the load capacity? I think you have asked, yeah?
Yes, sir. Load capacity. How it
Load
affects capacity of electric vehicles is lesser than the load capacity of IC engine vehicles, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so the load capacity or the load carrying capacity of an IC engine versus electric, they are similar. So it's similar.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
See, depends, just 1 second. It depends on the kind of a moped or the motor that you have on the vehicle. It's the capacity that you have on the vehicle. So if it's a low speed vehicle, for example, which is 250 watt motor, which is somewhat like a moped, what used to be a moped. So that's the load capacity. So if you have three people on that vehicle, it will not work in the same manner. The motor will take a huge load, but as used to be the case with the moped. Whereas if it's a 1800 watt motor, 2 people can easily ride it. If it's a 3 kilowatt hour motor, 3 people can easily ride it. It's the same as going upwards from 70 cc, 100 cc, 125 cc in an IC engine vehicle.
Okay, sir.
So there's no general definition of what is a load capacity. It depends on what is the power of the vehicle.
Okay, sir. Yeah, I have another question. as you said before, when the time goes on, the performance of something, that means electronics like computers, will be better for lesser price, right?
Yes,
You're
go on.
comparing. You're
So
comparing.
what's
Yeah,
the
yes, sir. You have said that it is the same in the case of batteries. Yeah.
yes?
Okay.
So
Is
okay, so
said that
if I understand question correctly, is I'm saying that as the computer's performance has improved, it's a battery performance also improving. Is that the question?
So what is our question is, as the time is going
so
on,
what's the
for
effect of reducing batteries prices on total vehicle? Does it reduces or it remains the same?
sir, I will tell you. Actually, electronic goods or the computer goods, the cost is going on as invention is going on up, and the cost is going on. Similarly, in the future, batteries prices also will go down. She's asking like that. Is it the Madhuri same?
Yes, sir. That's my question.
So Madhuri, what would happen is that, yes, you're right in assuming that the battery prices, and that's why I showed you in one chart where the battery prices right now at the cell level are $160, expected to come down to $110 by 2024, and then down to about $60 by 2030. Now, what would happen is chemistry would have changed dramatically since till then. So one way is to look at it is that the price will continue to come down, and the second way is that the price will remain stable, but your performance is going to keep on increasing. Your density of the battery is going to keep on improving. So the same battery, what you have in the same form factor, our battery is about 10 kilos and it has a certain dimension. And the same dimension, instead of giving you 80-kilometer range, we may be able to give you a 120-kilometer range in the next couple of years at the same price point. So there's two ways to look at it. Either the price drops or the performance improves. And that is something that is going to continue happening. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And the future technology will be wireless power transmission.
See, the wireless transmission, which is inductive charging, like what you have with your mobile phone, you just keep your mobile phone on a charger and it can charge. That already exists. In fact, some of our vehicles have had that technology since the past 7-8 years. The issue is not the availability of technology. The issue is that in what happens with wireless charging is there's a lot of loss of energy. And how you place the vehicle, where you place the vehicle, how you do, there's a lot of loss of energy. And in a country like India, where we install those charging stations, so let me give you a scenario on how things may pan out in the next going forward. There is already plans of creating roads which have wireless charging built into the roads. So as you're driving on those roads, because of the weight and the friction that the vehicles are causing on the road, there is energy getting generated. That energy gets converted into kinetic energy, gets converted into mechanical and electrical energy, which gets stored and passed back onto the vehicles. So there is possibility theoretically to do that in the long run. Not at this point of time, it's too expensive to do that. The losses that you have out of wireless charging are huge when you look at a vehicle of that size. So it's something which will certainly happen going forward, but right now it's just expensive to do that.
Okay, sir. So what about the resale value of electric vehicles? Is it similar to IC engine vehicles or?
No, it's not quite similar to IC engine vehicles. In fact, so when I was talking about, financing being a big factor right now, it's to do with the resale value determination. So we are still figuring out, or financiers are still, NBFCs are still figuring out that once the battery is taken out, what is the value of the vehicle without the battery? So that is something which is there. But the minute you replace the battery, the vehicle is almost as good as new from that perspective, because the wear and tear on the vehicle is actually less than what it is for IC engine. And that is why when you look at IC, majority of the vehicles are financed. When you look at electric right now, it's sub 6% or sub 5% of vehicles which are financed right now. So that is a bit of a factor which exists, where how do you determine the resale value without the battery? That's a bit of a factor at this point.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next.
Hello, sir. This is Achal from first year, sir. I have a doubt regarding the model of the electric vehicles, sir. Since we have seen from the car products, till now the products are in the scooter types, sir, or electric products. Why don't we design it in a bike type? Since the more of the youth prefers to drive those vehicles, is that due to the scientific reason behind those models, sir, or any marketing reasons?
So Achyut, I'm assuming you're talking about as a bike, a motorcycle
Yes,
form factor. Okay. See, there's no marketing reason behind it. It's more of a technical reason. So when you look at the two-wheeler market globally, and India is more of a motorcycle market, but when you look at the rest of Asia, you look at Europe, you look at the other markets, generally for smaller vehicles, it is a scooter is the form factor, or a blend of a scooter and a motorcycle. It's not generally a motorcycle. India is the only market where we have very low capacity motorcycles. Whereas when you go to the West, the motorcycles are generally much higher capacity, 250cc, 350cc, 400cc, forming the base of the pyramid. In India, it's 100cc, which is still the prevalent because of the economics that come in for it. Now, when you look at a motorcycle versus scooter, what happens in a scooter, because your batteries are heavy, in an electric vehicle, your battery is your mainstay, is what is causing this, creating that energy. And there is weight involvement in that. The batteries, you want to keep them as low as center of gravity as possible. So even in a motorcycle, for example, when you look at the form factor, you've got the engine, which is there, at the lower level, and then you've got a fuel tank. So if you keep your batteries where the fuel tank is, you're bringing the center of gravity up, in which case there's chances of imbalance. So you've got to keep your batteries low, and in which case you use the top part more for storage reasons than anything else. So that is one factor. There's a technical factor around it. The second is the form factor of a motorcycle versus scooter is more of speed versus utility. So the assumption when person is sitting on a motorcycle is that of a more of a speed, whereas when somebody is on a scooter is more of utility. That is the case right now. Is that going to remain going forward? We still believe that scooter is still going to remain as a mainstay for electric vehicles, even though we have got a motorcycle which is ready for launch. We are just not launching it right now because of the price, and we believe that's going to be more of a niche market right now. So we are waiting a while before launching that. Motorcycles will be there, but essentially it is going to be scooter, which is going to be the main form factor for the next couple of years. 7-8 years hence, we don't know.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the information, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. My name is Raghavendra. Sir, I have collected some data from the internet that 1 ton of lithium is used for manufacturing 90 electric cars, sir. So by mining 1 ton of lithium 19 million liters of water is wasted, sir, approximately. So how can we overcome that one, sir?
Raghavendra, there are numerous reports which talk about the extraction or the amount, it's called the it's the mineral to the wheel ratio. How much is it for electric and versus IC engine? So right now a comparison is between IC and electric. So it's the wheel to the power ratio of, let's say, electric. What you're talking about, the water that is getting wasted because of the mining. There is also lithium which comes out of brine, and that brine is actually found in lakes, etc., which are there in the higher altitude. So Chile, Afghanistan, some of these places also have brine where you can extract lithium. Whereas when you look at your comparison, which is that of petrol or a diesel, which is oil getting extracted, the amount of energy that is consumed in extracting that oil, which is going to be used in his IC engine vehicles, and then there is burning happening of that oil. This is far, far, far cleaner when it comes to the well to wheel ratio for electric is far cleaner than what we have the other options at this point of time. Even a hydrogen fuel cell, for example, even when we go to hydrogen, which is zero emission, but the creation of that hydrogen, the amount of salt, water and electricity that is going to be used to actually power that, to create that hydrogen in the air or for that vehicles is going to be substantial. We don't have that level of energy right now. So this is the best option for us at this point of time in the near foreseeable future as against what we have otherwise, which is the oil industry.
Sir, but pure groundwater is being wasted, sir.
Not wasted. Not wasted. That groundwater goes back into the ground, gets recycled and comes back as groundwater. It's not wasted. It's not burnt. It goes back into the ground after filtration.
Yes, sir. Sir, it's that lead to drought, no, sir? Drought in some areas.
Sorry?
That leads to drought in some areas, no, sir.
No, okay, so when you look at the places where we are actually mining these the lithium ion, Australia, we've got Chile, which is another one. We've got some other parts of Latin America where you're mining these. That's not the reason leading to a drought. There would be other reasons. Is it completely clean in terms of the emissions that we have? Emission-wise, it is. But it does involve that there is water which is used for mining, which is therefore even others, whether it's coal, whether we do any kind of mining, water is used for that kind of mining. That is there, yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Understood.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Aditya. Sir, during rainy days, does charging of an electric vehicle become a problem, sir?
So if I understand, so you've parked your vehicle in the rain and that's when you're charging it. Is that the question?
Yes, sir.
See, it's at the end of the day, the vehicle itself is IP67 certified. So which means, that it's waterproof. You can take it into water. In fact, there are numerous videos of our vehicles in some parts of the country where everything else has come to a standstill, IC engine, because there's water which has gone up to the engine level and the carburetor level. And our vehicles still continue to wade through the water because the connectors are waterproof. All of that is waterproof. So there's no problem there. The motor is completely sealed. The battery, even if it's submerged in water, continues to function for a short while. There's no problem with that. But if you're charging the vehicle in rain, it's like you've got your charger which is outside and exposed to water. It's like, you going out and putting your phone or your computer out. That may be in the shade. Let's say your computer is not waterproof, but your charger is out in the rain. So the charger is not waterproof from that perspective. It should not be exposed to rain. See, look at it from let's look at rain and heat both. We've got problem of plenty in both the areas. So when you've got your vehicle which is completely wet, it's raining outside, it's better to park it under a shade and then charge it. There's no problem there, even if your vehicle is wet or it's drenched. Same is the case with heat. If you've been using your vehicle out, in India, we know parts of India, we get 45-degree temperature. The road temperature is about 55 degrees because of the tar on the road and it's hot. And the battery is very close to the road when it comes to the heat. And when you're going on the vehicle, again, the battery is getting heated up. Now, just the way that you would not come back, take your mobile phone, keep it out in the sun and plug it into charge, you should let your battery cool down first. If possible, park your vehicle into shade and then charge your vehicle, let it cool down. If you would not do that with your computer and your mobile phone, why would you do that with the vehicle which has got the same technology in it? So it's always better to park it in a shade. And those are some of the battery management tips that we already give with the vehicle. We explain it to the customers when they're buying the vehicle. You take care of these vehicles, they will last for a long time. If you misuse them, they will break down. It's like in the same with the motorcycle or a scooter. If you misuse that, the more you misuse it, the more it'll break down. With your phone, you leave it out in the sun and try and charge it in the sun, you will have a problem. The battery will start bulging. Here, we take care of the chemistries. We take care that the battery does not bulge. It does not go into those kind of conditions and it cuts off. But please respect. Does that answer your question, Aditya?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next.
Hello, sir. I am Venu from first year. Nowadays, mostly foreign countries are looking into vehicles that travel in air, no, sir. That means air taxis or air vehicles. Is there a problem with this, sir?
So if I understand correctly, you're asking that can we start traveling by air on these vehicles?
What is your exact?
Yes, sir, nearly, but I'm asking that is there any financially loss to our country to the vehicles that go by road?
I am not sure I understand the question. If you can just repeat what your question is, please.
Yes, sir. Mostly foreign countries are looking into vehicles that travel in air. Even if we produce more vehicles that go on road, can we get a loss financial decision?
So he wants to compare whether to go by air or by electrical vehicles. So more vehicles are now, most of the people are moving by air. So how it will be financially viable? Is it the question, Venteja?
Yes, sir.
See, electric air taxis at this point of time, even though there may be lots of projects going on, but commercially viability of that has not been proven anywhere at all. What is possibly going to happen is that the first change that we're going to see is going to autonomous vehicles. Air is still a while away before it becomes commercially viable, and especially in a country like India, here we still have issues with autonomous vehicles. We still have issues with even drones and etc. I don't think it's going to happen in a country like India anytime soon. There are certain countries which are talking about it, introduction, but whether they're going to be commercially viable at this point of time remains to be seen. So in terms of cost, of course, it is far more expensive because the minute you've got an autonomous, and I'm not sure whether you're talking about a pilot flying that vehicle or a passenger or a autonomous vehicle. If it's an autonomous vehicle, those are extremely expensive at this point of time, extremely expensive. They're not going to be commercially viable, and especially in a country like India, they will certainly not be commercially viable at this point of time. So that's still a while away.
Yes, sir, I understand, sir. Sir, also, why don't we use, already we have changed from fuel to electric vehicles, no, sir. Why don't we add some more specifications like artificial intelligence to those vehicles?
Sorry, I'm not clear on the question again.
Why don't we add some specifications like artificial intelligence?
AI is, of course, AI is going to play a very, very important role when it comes to electric vehicles. In my previous, when I started the presentation, I already spoke about that electric vehicles are smarter. And so IoT, AI is going to play a very, very important role with electric vehicles for sure. Absolutely. That's already there. We are already offering IoT and smart connected vehicles to customers. So we offer the customer the option of choosing. We've got 4 levels of smart connectivity. The customer can choose what level he wants. In consumers, B2C, customers don't really adopt that much in terms of technology, but when it comes to B2B, they are certainly adopting it in a very meaningful manner. So that's already there.
Yes, sir. Sir, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Professor Rao, I have another meeting.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Take possibly the last question.
Anybody? Last question. Anybody is there? So there is no question. We are coming to conclusion.
Sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, continue.
Sir, what if we put a flywheel energy storage system between a renewable energy source and an electric vehicle charger in an electric vehicle? Could be adapted as a fast EV charging?
So are you talking about a perpetual motion kind of this thing where you put a flywheel on the vehicle, where as the vehicle is moving, energy is getting generated and that energy is getting captured and back into the vehicle? You could do that. There are enough experiments being tried. In fact, I've been looking at a particular experiment on that for the past about 12, 13 years. But it's not reached a capacity where the energy that it's generating is more than the energy that it's consuming. So there's regenerative braking, for example. Now, when you brake the vehicle or when there's friction that gets created, that gets converted from kinetic energy into electrical energy that gets stored in the vehicles. But the conversion of that is very low when it comes to smaller vehicles like two-wheelers. It's only about 4-5%. So we are already doing regenerative braking. But whether a freewheel kind of a vehicle momentum in a vehicle, it's not large enough to create that energy because of the freewheel will be very small. When you have a large vehicle, then you can actually create that freewheel, which is creating that perpetual energy. But again, to power that vehicle, is it going to be enough? No. So the cost, it's basically a factor of, is the cost of that free wheel going to get offset the cost of the vehicle itself, of the technology? It's not enough right now. So it's more expensive to do that than what is going to be economically viable.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
It will happen. It's a good idea. It will happen. Theoretically, it works, but practically it doesn't right now. But in the near future, certainly it may.
Who is that? Who is that?
Yes,
that was Hemant, I think.
Hemant Kumar from second year.
Hemant, very
good question. That is a very good question.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Hemant, keep at this question. Keep watching what happens in this space. Something or the other will happen in the next few years.
Okay, sir. I will watch.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Actually, through your that is the talk, I have observed that you have gained the vast experience. It is there. Vast knowledge in chemical, electrical, mechanical, every field you are answering, you have interacted, the students have interacted, and in general, management and all the chemical, battery, mechanical, and electrical. So you have gained so much experience on all these three, combination of these three engineers, technical expertise engineers. So we are very thankful to you, sir. You have patiently interacted with all the students, and you have explained and enlightened about everything about the electrical vehicles, not only electrical part, batteries, chemical, and everything. So we are very thankful to you, sir. So one more thing, I told you actually when I have specified that our Andhra University is a very top university in the state of Andhra Pradesh. The students are first rankers of out of 1.5 lakhs students who wrote the examination for entrance examination. The first rankers will join in the Andhra University Engineering College. So ours is top #1 college in the engineering college in the Andhra Pradesh, state of Andhra Pradesh. So if in case it is possible, you please look on to that is the placements or internships for our students, sir, please, in your company. Internships or placements in your company. So actually, when you told the first question, you told who are the is there anybody looking for the career opportunities in this field? So I was very happy. Our students were also, I think, they were also very happy. So there are most of them are, at least some of them are very enthusiastic to join in this opportunity, carry this opportunity, sir. This field. Yeah. That is the main observation, my observation. So any students, anybody, you can give the concluding remarks. Student, anybody? Student?
Yes, sir. Thank you for giving us this valuable meeting and sharing us a lot of knowledge that you have and explaining us each and every doubt. Thanking you, sir. We are interested in this electric vehicle sector.
Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, Professor Rao, for having me here. It was an absolute pleasure. The questions were extremely pertinent. And that's exactly why I love interacting with students, because the questions they come up with are some things that we are not thinking about on a day-to-day basis. Some of them were extremely valid questions, and we would love to explore on how we can actually apply those questions in our day-to-day technologies and what we are doing on a day-to-day basis. Thank you so much for having me. Do take care, stay safe, and hopefully we'll be out of this pandemic very, very soon, and maybe be able to meet in person in the very near future. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So about my request, you have
yes, certainly. So about your request, I am just Ankit is on the IC. He's on the call still. He will connect up with our HR department. We may not have so many placement opportunities because we are actually still a small to a medium-sized organization. We are working with a number of universities already, but nevertheless, we will explore the best that we possibly can do for your students.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Naveen, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.